a teenage film snob, baby. I was a teenage film snob, baby.
Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, recording live once again from the treadmill. You can probably hear it grinding away below my feet, but I'll do my best to get that audio out of your ears. We will have other human beings on the show again very soon, starting from next week. It has not been recorded yet, but it is all confirmed. The incredible, the iconic, the lovely Genevieve Gunter will be returning to the show. She was on last year. We talked about her favorite movies. She's got a fantastic YouTube channel and set of reels on Instagram. And she reached out to me. She said, I want to come back and talk to you about Marvel movies. And I said, Genevieve, nothing would make me happier. So she will be on the show next week. Nick back soon as well, and Maddie hopefully back soon as well. I'm going to be out of action for the next couple of weeks, so I'm recording extra stuff now, and that is actually the topic of today's episode. So if you wanted movie talk, swipe on past. We're not going to talk about movies too much today. Instead, I want to talk about something that's really important to me, something that I'm undertaking in the next week. By the time this drops out, I'll be less than a week out from my procedure. I've talked about it on Instagram already, and I'll be honest, I've been a little bit disappointed by the response. So I thought I'd take it to the podcast and talk about it here, and then if you have questions or curiosities, you can listen free of judgment. But I posted a video and reposted it multiple times and didn't get too much response, which further proves my point about what I was trying to do. I'm going in for a procedure next week. I'm getting a vasectomy. I am almost 38 years old. I have 2 children. I don't want any more. And, why not? Take care of business, get it all sorted out, and stop contributing to the growth of the population. I have contributed far enough. And, don't need any more rugrats, as they say. And the reason I'm talking about this on the podcast, and the reason I'm talking about it on Instagram, is that no one's talking about it. No one's talking about male sexual health. The big conversation in politics and all around the world right now is women's sexual health. They're talking about women's bodies all the time, what they can do with them, what they can't do with them. In America, they're passing laws to make it harder to get access to medical treatment and support and things like that. And no one's talking about the male side of the equation. So there's a guy called Liam. He has an Instagram page called The Plant Slant. He's really entertaining. He's very smart, very funny, and I really dig his content. And he recently got one, and he talked about it, and I thought, okay, well, someone's talking about it. Maybe I can add to the conversation. So I put out my video, and I said to everyone, hey, this is happening in the next couple of weeks. Send me your questions. It's not something people are talking about. I've got lots of male friends, and I don't know who's got one, who doesn't have one. We never talk about it, and we need to change that. We need to change the attitude towards male sexual health. We need to change the attitude towards sexual health in general. It's still demonized. People don't like to talk about it. And I understand not talking about it at the workplace, of course. I understand not talking about it in front of children. I'm not an idiot. But at the same time, in an online space where we are all, or supposed to be all, mature adults, why aren't we having these conversations? It is quite concerning, especially because people have lots of opinions on what women do with their bodies. So I was hoping to get some questions. I really only got one from a woman, a friend of mine. So instead, I'm just going to take you through my journey and the reason why I'm doing this and why I want to get it done. And I'll have the conversation that I hoped we would all be having. But if no one wants to join in, I'll do it on my own. So first of all, very pro male contraception. I don't think it should be the woman's responsibility. Some people disagree with that online, a very small minority with very loud voices. At the end of the day, when it comes to making babies, when it comes to sexual congress, there are 2 parties involved, unless you're very, very sad and lonely, which, hey, we've all been there. But in the grander scheme of things, there's 2 people involved, and people are always blaming women. It's the woman's fault she got pregnant. It's the woman's fault this and that. And it's just not true at all. So I've known for a long time, for years, I've only ever wanted 2 children. My entire life, I wanted kids, I wanted 2, and when my son was born, I was like, that's it, no more. And initially, heading in to my son being born, we had a pre-arranged cesarean. My daughter was born by a cesarean. That was an unplanned one. It was an emergency one. And after the experience had come and gone, I was talking to my wife about it, and I said, look, I know we didn't want to do that. I know you wanted to do a natural birth, but this seems to have worked out quite well in terms of recovery and things like that. Do you think if we had a second child, you would go through the same thing? Would you try to deliver naturally? And she knew straight away. She wanted to do cesarean. Cesarean, you can book in advance. You get a room. You can go in you don't, there's no pushing. There's no labor. There's a lot of pros to cesarean birth. And I know right now, by talking about this is going to ruffle feathers. People disagree with this. People think there's only one way to give birth. People think there's only one way to feed babies and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just saying, you're entitled to your opinion, but it doesn't mean it's right for everyone. Not everyone can have a natural labor, as it were. If my wife had have delivered naturally, she and my daughter probably would have died. So I prefer to have 2 live women in my family as opposed to none. So we went down that way, and with our son, we booked the same thing. And a few months out, my wife said to me, she goes, hey, I know you were going to get a vasectomy, which I've talked about since we've been married. Since we started the conversation about kids, I said, well, when we have enough, I'll get the snip, and that'll be that, and then there'll be no more children. And in the months leading up to our son being born, she said, hey, I know you were going to get one, but they're cutting me open anyway. Why don't I just ask them to tie my tubes? Get the process done on her, which, I appreciated. I was like, hey, if you're already under, why have both of us go into surgery? But at the same time, I was willing to go ahead with the vasectomy. But it did make sense. I said, well, look, have a chat with your OBGYN, have a chat with your maternal health care nurse and all that sort of stuff, or whoever the people were. I will be honest, I can't remember who she spoke to. I said, see what they say. And if we can book it in, fantastic. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as it were. So she went to her medical person. I wish I knew who it was. That's fine. Who was a woman. And she said to her, look, this is what we're thinking. You cut me open anyway. Why don't you take care of business at the same time? That way I don't have to worry about, any further pregnancies. And the woman she was with looked her dead in the eye and she said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that because you might change your mind and want more kids later. Now, at this time, my wife was 37 years old. She's about to turn 38. She was what the medical profession referred to as a geriatric pregnancy, which is horrible. Hey, you know how you're not 40 yet? You're considered old. That's what they're saying. So she was considered a geriatric pregnancy, a higher risk pregnancy, and they still said no to her because she might want to change her mind, which is ridiculous. More so because when I went to speak to my doctor, I said, hey, I want to get a vasectomy. What do I need to do? Do you need to do a referral? And he goes, no, just book it online. There was no gatekeeping for me. On the website, it even said, as long as you're 18 years old, we will perform one of these. If you're under the age of 25, there will be additional questions. But there was nothing. There was no gatekeeping. I could do what I wanted. And that's concerning to me, man. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation. But no one's asking questions, so I'm just filling in the blanks myself. But that's problematic to me. She was told no by another woman, and I didn't even have to speak to her. I could just book it online. No questions asked. That's wrong. That's troubling to me, man. So anyway, I didn't book the vasectomy because of the answer. I was going to get one anyway. But that's what definitely spurred me on to have this conversation. I think it's just so important that, if you're in a relationship with a woman, whether you are a man or a woman or non-binary or else, if you are in a relationship with a woman who can get pregnant, you might have to take one for the team. And you have to speak up for them because no one's helping them. And really annoyingly, and I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, this is not the first time it's happened. We hear all the time about how men are making women's lives more difficult. And I agree with it. There is no argument from me here. Turn on the news any day of the week and men are just screwing it up for everyone else. Women aren't helping women either. When my wife was in labor with our first child, she asked the midwives 7 times, I would like the epidural. Can I please have the epidural? And they didn't say no, but they didn't say yes. They said, you can do it without it. You can do it. Don't worry about it. Do it natural. The first man that walked in was the doctor, and I said to him, hey, she's asked for the epidural 6 or 7 times now. Can we get it? And he said yes straight away. Everyone is the problem. Everyone is the problem when it comes to women's health, particularly their sexual health. No one is helping women, and it's bumming me out. And I know it's bumming my wife out, and I know it's bumming a lot of women out. We need to work together and help people out more. This is, it's gross. It's disgusting. Like, why are we letting this happen? So, with all of that in mind, I booked in my vasectomy. I am now a week out. And now that we know why I'm doing it, I don't want to have kids and they wouldn't let my wife do it. I guess the next question people would ask, probably, if they had engaged with the question, is, am I nervous? And the answer is no, I'm not. I'm really not nervous. I've read heaps about it, probably more than I should have. And I just have no concerns at all. I've read all sorts of reviews, some for this company and other companies as well. I did lots of research before I went with the place I'm going. And one clinic had lots of negative reviews. They had a 1-star review on Google. And I had to read the horror stories. I was like, well, why is this place no good? Turns out there was nothing wrong with the procedure. It was a bunch of Christians saying, you named your clinic Ave Maria, and that's anti-religious, so we're going to review bomb you. Like, what? Oh, man, it's just, everyone's frustrating me and annoying me. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just so disappointing to live in a time where we're supposed to be better than those who came before us, and it seems like we're getting worse. So I'm not nervous. The thing I'm most nervous about is getting the injection. I've had an injection down there before. It does not feel good. So I'm not looking forward to that. But the actual process, I'm not worried about at all. I've had to take pretty serious painkillers in my life and anesthetic and stuff like that for a bunch of procedures. I had a procedure last year when I had to have a mole removed. I had to have anesthetic in my mouth when I've had teeth removed and dental work done. So I know once it's in there, I'm not going to feel anything. So I'm not worried about that. I'm actually looking forward to it because I'm going to get some time off, and I'm looking forward to having a bit of a holiday, just watching movies and playing video games while I rest up. So I'm not nervous about it at all. One person did ask a question, my friend Gabby. She said, what was the advice from your doctor in terms of preparing? And there wasn't much advice at all. The only thing they said I need to do was shave, as it were. So I had to practice that recently because I've never done that before. And it went well. It went okay, so I'm practiced, I've rehearsed, and next week I'll do it again. But that's the only preparation I needed to do for it, was just, again, like, what do you need to do if you're a woman? Fill out 20 pieces of paperwork, ask really nicely and get told no. What do you need to do if you're a man? Tick a box online and shave. It's a broken system, man. So we've talked about the why. We've talked about how am I feeling, am I nervous, it's the thing. I don't really know if there are any other general questions. Like, am I worried about the recovery? No. The instructions are pretty simple. It sounds like when people do have problems with their procedures because they didn't follow the instructions. I'm a stickler for the rules when it comes to medicine and medical treatments. So if they say no lifting, then there's no lifting. If they say no standing, there's no standing. I know I'm on the treadmill right now, but if they say, hey, no more than 200 steps for the next 2 weeks, then that's what I'm doing. It'll suck to put a bit of weight back on, but I'd rather, not have pain and a poor recovery. I don't know if there's much more I can say. What kind, I guess, people might ask what kind of vasectomy am I getting? I'm getting the no scalpel version. So there's no stitches required. They don't cut me open. It's just a puncture on each side, whack on a Band-Aid, and then 5 days later I can take the Band-Aid off, have a shower, and I'm all good. I don't know if there's much more else to say. It would have really helped if people had engaged with the post and asked questions. But all in all, like, I feel good about my reasons. I'm not worried about changing my mind. I know that comes up a lot. Like, what if you change your mind and want more kids? I don't. I do not want more kids. I'm happy with my 2. For the longest time after my daughter was born, I was pretty convinced I only wanted 1. I was like, you know what? Maybe 1 kid is great. Maybe I don't need any more. But after conversations with my wife, after conversations with my daughter, I did realize that there was room in our family for more. I did want another one. But now that he's here, I definitely don't need any more children. I don't want any more children. I cannot afford any more children. In terms of the price, people might ask how much does it cost? Obviously, it depends from place to place and country to country. But I think my process is going to cost about $700, but there's a rebate. So I get $200 back same day. Medicare takes care of that. So because we're in a universal healthcare society, we get money back. The only reason I have to pay anything is because it's an elective procedure. It's not a medical requirement. So I do have to pay some out of pocket, but that's okay. $500, if, compared to more children, way cheaper. So I'm cool with that as well. What else can I tell you? You know why I want to do it. You know how I feel about it. You know if I'm nervous. You know how much I'm paying. You know the type I'm getting. I will do a part 2 to this, and I will put up a post again saying, hey, now that it's done, does anyone have any questions? I'm sure people have questions about the recovery. The recovery is meant to be relatively easy, just some painkillers and some ice kind of on and off the area and stuff like that. But it's the kind of process where you can go back to work the same day. I'm not going to go back to work. They do recommend taking at least a day off, but you can go back to work if you have to. I'm going to take a couple of days off. I booked it on a Friday, so I get a bit of a long weekend there as well. So I'll have the Friday off, the Saturday, Sunday off, and then probably the Monday off as well, so I can recover. In terms of how effective is it, it's meant to be 99.99% effective. So I guess there's always room. As Jurassic Park says, life finds a way. There we go. There's our movie reference for the episode. But it's meant to be really effective. In terms of when does it take effect? 3 months. So you got to wait 3 months. You got to empty the gun, as it were, I think 20 times. And then once you've unloaded, I still apologize for the language there. That's kind of gross. Once you've taken care of business 20 times, you do a test and they let you know whether you're still fertile or whether it's all good to go. So, I guess I'll do an update around my birthday because around November, that's when it's meant to all be good to go. So I guess I'll give you more information then. But that's really all it is. That's our anatomy lesson for today. I don't have much more to say about it. If you do hear this and you do have questions, please send them to me. You can send them to me directly on Instagram. You can email the show. If you know me personally, you can text me. I'll save them. I'll huddle them all up and then I'll put them on the next episode. Maybe Jenna Beth will have questions. Who knows? Maybe when I catch up with her, she might have questions about it. Probably not. I'm not going to bring it up because that's a bit weird. But we'll see how we go. But if you are hearing this, please start the conversation with someone. It's so important. You don't have to get a vasectomy. You don't. Again, I don't know. I only know one person. One person reached out to me after that video and said, I've got one. And I was like, I think I knew that. But that's okay. It was an older man. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying have the conversation. I think there's a lot of stigma around it. Sometimes people think it makes you less of a man if you get snipped, but it doesn't. It doesn't at all. In fact, it doesn't impact testosterone or anything. It just means you can't get people pregnant. And why would you, if you don't want children or if you had enough children, why would you want the risk? That's the question that boggles my mind. Like, why are people so anti it when it's a very quick procedure? And I get it. It's a sensitive area. But, my wife got it cut open twice to get babies removed. I think I can take a shot in the nuts for a couple of minutes to meet her halfway. And let's be honest, that's not halfway. But that's me meeting her 10% of the way and she did 90% of the work. We are going to talk about movies next week. So thank you for your patience. Last week we talked about red flags. So we did movie talk last week. This week we talked about my junk. And then next week, lots of Marvel stuff. It's a very short episode this week, but a very important episode. Please have the conversation. Please send me questions. I will do a part 2 once the procedure's done and once I'm in recovery so I can let you know how it's all going. If it goes well, I'll tell you all the good stuff. If things don't go well, I'll tell you all the bad stuff. But I still think even the worst case scenario still outweighs, the alternative. So that's where we're at. Thanks for listening to the show. More movie talk very soon. I'll catch you then. Thanks for listening.